All right, welcome everyone. This is Our Travel Experiences. I'm your host, Kyle Rasmussen, and today I have with me Matt. Matt, how are you today?
Doing really well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you here. I'm super excited to hear your travel experiences. Like I was telling you just before we hopped on here, I've been following your Burger Quest journey for a while now, and so I'm really excited to hear more about that and kind of see what the future is for that.
Absolutely.
Tell me, how did this journey of finding the best burger in Washington start?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, right at the beginning of COVID, we live in Yakima, obviously. We had taken a bike path out to Natchez and went to a place called the Laredo Burger, which is just a little burger spot out there. And we grabbed a burger and some fries and a shake just because that's what we've always ordered. And while we were eating it, we were talking with the kids about, what did we want to do for the summer? And our now 10-year-old Gabe said, you know what? Could we do like a Burger Quest where we try different stuff around the city? We said, yeah, that'd be really fun. And as things closed down and there was less and less stuff that you could physically go to do in town, we decided, why don't we try stuff all over the state? And so that summer, we basically planned weekends around being able to go and try specific kind of mom and pop sort of places. There's too many restaurants, obviously, to try all of them everywhere. So we decided to do it for places like Laredo, or in town like Stop and Go, the Peppermint Stick. And we found that there are lots of those places around the state, and really specifically in sort of rural small towns.
Yeah.
So it gave us a chance to see stuff all over the state, to try specific burgers. We ordered a bacon double cheeseburger, fries or onion rings, and then a chocolate peanut butter banana milkshake everywhere. My wife was really into those. And so we wanted to keep it pretty consistent. But the other thing is, with COVID really hurting a lot of the businesses, we're big food people and we really try to support local spots. And being in a smaller town, we're like, how can we go and show our support and raise kind of the awareness that there are smaller spots that are probably hurting during COVID, when everything else is shutting down and these places are literally just trying to get people there.
Yeah.
So, we put about 10 or 12,000 miles on our van over a 3-month period. And so it was really fun. A lot of the beginnings of kind of our food questing started back in Iowa, where I did my residency. One of the first things that I heard from somebody when I heard in 2010 that I'd matched in Iowa, somebody said, "Oh, is there more than one city there?" And so it was like just a tongue-in-cheek thing, but very quickly people would be like, "Oh, what else? There's nothing to do in Iowa, right?" And so my wife and I decided we're going to go explore. And so be it like Roadside America sort of stuff, or all the way to we heard about a potluck that this place had up in northern Iowa, where like all the hunters would bring whatever they caught that year. And so we found somebody who lived there, went up to this little restaurant where they had a potluck, and we ate like 12 different types of meat that day. Wow. And so that was sort of the beginnings of starting to explore places. And when we got back here in 2016, we had started to explore, and then the Burger Quest really gave us a specific reason and a specific thing to go look for.
Yeah, that sounds like a ton of fun. Just sounds like it just kind of happened out of nowhere a little bit.
It was a really cool kind of, it was a very unexpected and kind of just organic thing that happened. And it really was like, the funnest part, I think, was that the kids got really excited about it. We have 3 boys who are now 6, 8, and 10. Eli is 6, Sai is 8, and Gabe is 10. And all of them are little foodies now.
Yeah.
And so by the time we got done with the Burger Quest, we had tried about 70 places around the state that had gone. It was a lot of stuff kind of central Washington and west, but everything up to like Anacortes and Linden in the far northwest corner. We went out on the peninsula to Sequim and Forks, a little place in Joyce, Washington. It's a place of like 1,000 people. We'll give them a shout out, the Blackberry Cafe. They have this thing called the Sasquatch Burger, which is a 20-ounce patty, and it's just massive. their barbecue sauce there was so good that we actually bought a giant cup of it from them and brought it home. But then, we went down to Aberdeen, to Hoquiam, a place called Tokeland, which is this teeny little crabbing town that had a spot down there. A lot of stuff along Highway 12, kind of from Packwood, Ashford. And there's a lot of little towns that dot the land there. And then even up and down I-5, we would stop somewhere and go, be like, okay, if we get off on this exit, 5 miles down the road is a place that has been here for 90 years and is owned by the same family.
Yeah.
So it was really a fun time. We got very particular about the things we looked for in burgers too. That was the other thing, is you start keying it on okay, this is the thing that we like. Mm-hmm. We do not like sweet relish. We really like when they toast the bun. Those were big things.
That sounds good. Yeah. So yeah, how do you find all these little places?
The Yelp is something that we've used a ton. Okay. In residency. There'd be weeks where literally working 110 hours, and I would get home and just my brain couldn't handle any more urology, and so I started writing about what I was eating. My wife Missa and I found that going out to eat was a way that we could reconnect, especially before we had kids, where we would go days without seeing each other or just seeing each other at night. And so we would go out to dinner on a Friday, and we would go find somewhere that we hadn't eaten, and we would have dinner for 3 hours. And that was our way to reconnect. And we found that used a lot of different apps. Foursquare was one of them. Some with Google, but Yelp kind of was the one where the stuff that people liked on Yelp matched a lot of what we liked. And so that basically we started searching for drive-through burger places all around the state. I do a lot of stuff on Instagram where we post things. And so I start following different places, and just through that, it's nice to be able to search tags and stuff. And so you start seeing, okay, there's a new spot that popped up here, or a new spot here, or somebody's highlighting this. And so it was a lot, it's a lot of just looking at what other people are eating, and then seeing what people like. And then once people saw that we were doing it, and it wasn't just hey, I posted 3 pictures, started asking hey, where should we go next? And people were like, there's this place over in, outside of Gig Harbor, or someplace over on a random island somewhere that they had been. And so, a lot of stuff on apps, but it started attracting a lot more attention, which was really fun.
Yeah. It looks like you've gained a pretty good following on Instagram now. And I know looking at those burgers, I'm like, oh man, I got to go try all these places now.
We ate a lot of burgers. What we would do is we would get 1 burger, fries, and a shake, and we would split it between the 5 of us. And so I started getting messages from friends, physician friends, that are like, dude, are you being sponsored by Lipitor or something? Or is somebody checking your labs on a regular basis? Because this can't be good for you. We definitely we were trying to be conscientious of that. And we, during the early COVID times, being in Central Washington, we had a lot of opportunity to go hiking. So that was another thing we would do, is we'd go down on the Columbia River. We would find a random hiking trail. We would go hike outside of White Salmon or something, and then we would go to a burger place on the way back. And so we tried to match the amount of calorie intake with at least a little bit of activity.
Yeah. Some of those look like probably a whole day's worth of calories.
There were plenty that if you finished the thing off, you didn't need to eat very much. It's kind of like a snake when it's like, okay, I ate this whole whatever other animal. And, you just don't eat for another week.
That's funny. So it sounded like it kind of started out of COVID mainly. Are you planning to continue it into the future?
Yeah. So we actually we are doing another one right now, which is specifically in the Yakima Valley. And so we're big local people. Obviously, we want to highlight the stuff that's here. And again, growing up here, one of the things that I consistently heard was there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to eat. And so again, it was sort of this challenge to say, all right, let's go try everything and find kind of the little hole in the walls here. I think the Mexican food here is really rivals anything in the country, at least where where I've been. It's different in different spots, but I think the stuff that we've got here is as good as anywhere.
Agreed.
As far as burgers and stuff go, again, with the small towns, there are a lot of little mom and pop places. And so it's been fun kind of going up and down the valley. We're doing some stuff with the tourism board right now, just highlighting the different places in the valley. And so it's just the Yakima Burger Quest now kind of in conjunction with the Washington Burger Quest. But I was driving home from the Tri-Cities the other day, and there was a random cafe in Grandview called the 10-4 Cafe that I had seen come up a couple of times. I was like, well, it's lunchtime. I guess I'm going to go get a burger. So I ate half of it and brought it home, and the kids and Missa tried it as well. And it's just fun to be able to go places where it's like literally the grandkids are still working there when grandma and grandpa started this place in the 40s. And it's been kind of a local establishment. And so we also find that when you go to those places, you get to know the area a little bit. You see the history of the place and kind of what has gone on in the community. It's fun to look at the pictures on the walls and things and see the things that have sort of the community pride that goes into stuff. So
sometimes places like that are some of the best history museums.
They are.
Seeing all the pictures, you get the stories right from the locals, and
it's really fun to hear. Like a lot of those places will have the folks, again, the family members that work there, and it's fun to just sit and chat with them and say, like, when did this start? Who started this? Has it changed hands? Like, what do you like about it? What's your favorite thing? We love now, without going in and saying, hey, we're doing this, try to impress us, but going somewhere and saying, hey, like, if you had to just show somebody one burger here, what would you get? And so again, at this 10-4 Cafe, they're like, I would get this thing. This is our huge meat castle burger. And it's like, okay, let's get the smaller version of that. But it's fun. It's fun to see the things that get people excited and what they're proud of for what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. What's been one of the most unique burger spots you've been to?
The most unique one. That is so. There's a probably the most unique burger that we had. Where was the place? It's up north. I can't think of where it is, but the sign looked like Mayor McCheese from the old school McDonald's commercials, but he was a pirate. And every burger was named after a celebrity. So we had the Mr. T burger. It was a giant 3 patties with onion rings and cheese sticks on it or something, just a total gut bomb. But that was one of the more memorable ones. There was the best one that we had, the best burger we had was over in Packwood at a place called Cliff Droppers, and they do smash burgers there. So real thin patties and kind of, season it and then cram it down and make it so that the edges are crispy. I afraid there's actually a friend of mine was like, oh, it's this reaction that's happening. He's a chemistry nerd. It's like, oh, that's fun. Well, it's also delicious. So, other spots, there were a lot of again, along Highway 12, outside of Packwood, there's a place called Huff and Puff, which is this really super colorful sort of place. It's sort of got this, Puff the Magic Dragon thing going on. Their burger was good. But that's one that I remember how colorful the place was.
Yeah.
There was another place over just outside of Centralia. Again, I don't remember the name of it. But they served these teeny ice cream cones that came with them too. That was the one thing I remember. And again, it was a place where a friend from in town was like, oh, my mom grew up there. She remembers when her parents took her there.
Wow.
60 years ago. They've had the same ice cream cones ever since.
That's crazy.
So yeah.
When you're going with your family, do you guys ever disagree on which burgers you like, or do you guys generally like the same thing?
Everybody is we're very big carnivores in the Ullman family, and so everybody generally likes meat, cheese, bacon. And everybody has sort of developed a taste for like eggs on burgers too. That's another thing that kind of brings it together. Even when we're not eating burgers, we've been really lucky. My wife, who is just a rock star, is a really, really good cook, and so has very much introduced the kids to like, there can be different flavors and textures. Not everything has to be your favorite, but stuff can still be really good. Mm-hmm. And so even when we'll go to restaurants, the kids are always really excited about getting stuff that they haven't tried before, which has been fun. And so rather than, I guess, disagreeing on like which burger we should try, there's actually times where we're like, no, we shouldn't get that specialty one that's got like elk and something else on it. It's like we need to keep it consistent. Yeah. And that's also allowed us to talk about like, if we're going to be doing something like this, let's make sure we're trying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But definitely like our littlest guy loves strawberry stuff. So like if he has a choice to get a different type of shake, that's what he's going after. Yeah. So he's much more fruit forward.
Okay. Very cool. I think that's a fun way to explore with your family. I know I would have really enjoyed things like that. I always enjoyed the times when my family and I would go to those little spots or, go out to eat or something like that. It's allowed us to talk about stuff that, like, you talk about how it's important to support places that are smaller. We, for our third little boy, Eli, first two are biological children, and then Eli we adopted from China. And so when we were in China, we ate lots of different foods, but at times we also like went to McDonald's. And so it was interesting being able to like talk to them about how like you shouldn't go to fast food restaurants all the time when you're abroad. You need to try stuff, but there's like a consistent product. It also then led into why when we're home, if we're going to try a place, it's important to support local spots that don't have, places in the middle of China at a shopping mall. Yeah. And so it's been, like our kids now have learned that small businesses and places like that are really important to support, even if it costs a little bit more, to be able to say, okay, the fact that we know some of these people or may know some of these people, or they definitely live here, and it's supporting a small community. And especially during like the COVID lockdowns, it was really fun to be able to be like, all right, we're going to drive to you. Literally, there were Sundays where we would be like, we're going to drive to Ephrata for a burger. And we would do that. And we would look around and be like, oh, look, here's a fun coffee place. And then you chat with the people and stuff. And so it was a neat experience to be able to show them, not just talk about why it's important to support people in your community, but actually be able to show them like, here's how you do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now they start asking about it, They get a little bit pretentious at times and be like, oh, somebody said they like Taco Bell. And it's like, let's remember why it's important that those places exist and why it's good that you've tried them and that other things exist. Not that it's better, but that there's other alternatives, and you can introduce people to those things and say, hey, that's awesome. Let's try this place over here that's out of a truck instead, where grandma is making the stuff in the back. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's really cool. And not to hate on those fast food chains, but I'm going to guess probably most of those burgers you've had were better than McDonald's burgers. We definitely have a preference for stuff where like the meat was ground or made by the folks that were there. But again, there's always, it was like there's a place and time for like a Shamrock Shake or something, Yeah. Or if the McRib comes back. That's like, I've got a soft spot for the McRib. There you go. That's funny. Do you ever plan to switch to a different food or a drink at some point? We've talked about it. We've started we started doing like a sandwich quest. We had people asking, if we would try different sandwiches. It's more sort of side stuff because it's hard, like, unless you've got something that a bunch of people can split and isn't huge, it's hard to travel places. People were like, oh, would you go to pizza or tacos or something? Yeah. And it's like, pizza's too big because we can only try one, maybe two, and then we've got a meal for a couple of days. Yeah. And then with like taco, even just trying all the taco places in Yakima, that's one of the things we're trying to do, but there's probably 100. Yeah. And so again, chicken burgers or, chicken sandwiches were something that has kind of like has started, it's become
there's more places that are offering them.
Mhm.
So we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah.
But as of now, like the burger it's such an American classic that it makes sense. And we really, we would love to try, the majority of the places in the state eventually. And, again, anytime we drive anywhere, we plan around the places that we can stop and eat. There are times where the kids are like, do we really have to have another burger? And it's like, yep, we got to do this. We owe it to Washington to try the burgers.
You got to stay committed to
That's
it.
exactly right. Yep.
That's funny. So do you do this like every weekend, or do you do it plan around other trips? How does that kind of work?
It is. So during COVID, it was very much the weekend.
Okay.
And kind of when we would travel to a place, and we'd just say, look, we're ending up here. And we're going to stop for dinner here, and then we'll grab it lunch the next day at another place. For the stuff we're doing in the city and kind of in the valley right now, a lot on weekends, and then I have Mondays are an off day, so a lot of Mondays will be like, look, we're going to drive to Granger, and there's a place down there or something. But a lot of it has ended up being kind of on the weekends, but with intents to go to other places too, and kind of on the way.
Yeah. Okay.
But there definitely were times where we traveled, like we went to a place because there was a burger place that we wanted to try, and so we would spend a night there.
I'm sure maybe some of those people are like, you came all the way out here just for this?
Absolutely. It was it was a really good excuse to look around the state. And we've just got a beautiful state.
Oh, yeah.
It is. It's so, like, there's so much diversity just in the landscapes and stuff. And, we got really good at knowing where the turns were and stuff on a couple of the highways. Because, there was one month last year where I think we went over Highway 12, we went over White Pass, 5 times in a month. And it just was like, okay, this is the part where it's going to be slow. We got to leave by this time to get wherever.
Yeah. Is there any places that you've gone back to or would like to go back to?
The place up in Joyce, Washington is one that we will go back to. There's a place up in, I think it's Port Angeles called Frugals that was really good. It's actually a chain, like a local chain there, but that was phenomenal. We've been to the place in Packwood a couple of times because it was really, really good. But other than that, if we're going around town here, we'll go to specific spots. Yeah. But those are of the top 10, there were 3 or 4 of them where we would, if we were traveling out that direction, we would go again. And the ones, especially the ones up kind of in the northwest part of the state, are ones that we would definitely, we will plan trips specifically to be able to stop there. But this weekend we're going to go up to Orcas Island. So we've got a couple of places where it's like, all right, we got to stop up, outside of Mukilteo, and then, one up kind of by Anacortes and things. So those are the things that we start looking at. And
very cool.
Yeah.
What's the best burger you found in Washington or in Yakima so far?
In Yakima, our favorite is Laredo out in Natchez is probably the favorite. They do this thing where they mix all the sauce and the lettuce together. And so you kind of it's very evenly spread. You're not getting chunks of one thing in one bite and then nothing in the next. The peppermint stick out in Union Gap is really good. They have this thing. It's called I think it's called the Big Dave or something, but it's I don't know if it's if it's for Dave Thomas from Wendy's, but it's a square burger. That one's really good. And then actually the firing center, the Chevron Firing Center, or at the firing center, it's called Bullseye.
Yeah.
They do a ton of competitive eating stuff out there now, but their burgers are phenomenal. It's one of the guy does a ton of cooking for the actual firing center where there's a big military presence. And so I think there's a lot of dudes that eat a lot of burgers there, but they do a really, really good job.
Yeah. I haven't made it out there yet for one of those burgers, but I've heard from multiple people that's a good one. It's
really, really good. And it's just, again, it's a gas station.
Yeah.
Not
where you'd expect it to be.
No, it's, and I have a soft spot in my heart for gas stations that serve really good food. So,
yeah. Has there been any challenges along the way?
We were really lucky. We did never have any breakdowns or anything like that. Nobody got sick from any of them. That was kind of the thing that we were always thinking about. The biggest thing is there would be times where there was a place up between Leavenworth and Monroe, kind of on the up outside of Wenatchee, where there was a burger place that and the burger was really good, but the onion rings sucked. And so again, not really, it was not adversity, but they were like the prettiest onion rings we'd seen, but they didn't taste like anything.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think, it's definitely it's first world Burger Quest problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were pretty lucky. We really, nobody, like I said, nobody got food poisoning from anything. That was the thing that it was always kind of in the back of our minds, was what happens if somebody gets sick? And, you just deal with it.
Yeah.
But nobody got COVID from going up to any of the burger places. And, we saw lots of different people that were like, here's how we're going to serve this. Here it is on a stick.
Yeah.
Or here it is, we'll come out and put it on the front of your car and spray Lysol on it or something.
Oh, wow. That's wild. Well, awesome. Is there any other, fun stories or moments that you want to share?
Some of the coolest places that we've seen in the state we found on the Burger Quest. And again, these just unexpected kind of neat places. There was one spot that has become really one of our favorite places ever. It's called Stehekin, Washington.
Okay.
It is a little town that is only accessible by the Pacific Crest Trail or by boat. It's at the top of Lake Chelan. And so we had heard about a bakery up there that was awesome, that is only open during the summertime when you can access it.
Get there.
We rented a house up there. There's 60 people that live there year round. And then there's some campsites and stuff, and then some folks that rent their houses out. And so we've rented the same house every year for a few years. And I think the Burger Quest was there the second year that we went up there. And so we had a burger, up in Stehekin at this landing where the ferry comes in at. Discovering places like that and discovering the food up there, again, it's not a lot different than down here, but it was neat to be like, all right, there's no cell service up here. This has to be brought up every other day on a boat. There's a place called Tokeland, Washington, which is out kind of straight west of here. It's a little crabbing town. There was a couple from Seattle that bought an old 1800s hotel and redid it. And now it's this sort of it's a hotel / kind of bed and breakfast.
Okay.
The wife is an incredible baker who owned a place in Seattle, and they ended up selling that place and do that thing full time. So we discovered that on our Burger Quest, again, on the way out that direction. Ended up staying at the hotel, and it really it was the sort of place where there's no air conditioning, so we decided we'd go in the spring rather than in the middle of summer. But just these quaint places that you find. Like I said, the stuff up in the northwest part of the state. We went to Rialto Beach. We stayed in Forks, where Twilight is based. Yeah. So we saw the Twilight stuff, and
is there a Twilight burger?
There unfortunately was not. That was something we were looking for. There's a lot of other Twilight garbage, but just seeing those little towns that I think get forgotten a lot. Again, Yakima feels like that sometimes, but we're lucky that we've got so much good agriculture stuff and kind of the beer and wine and really the food that's grown here now. It's great to see that has become more recognized, I think, for how important it is. But starting in Iowa, where we would go to these towns that really just were not on the map, but that had something cool to go and see. We started seeing a lot of those, and it really was I think it was neat to go see there's you hear about places like Forks, but you don't go out there. And when you do, it's just a reminder that like, wow, there's nice people out here that are making good burgers, and then that also have like cool stories to share.
Yeah.
Our kids everywhere that we go will end up meeting kids at wherever, and they play with them when we talk with parents, and it just is fun to meet folks. So yeah, it really was like continuing to explore parts of the state where you're not necessarily going to go just to be like, oh, we're going to go up to the Okanagan Valley. We're going to go to Omak this weekend. Was not something that growing up ever happened, but now we start planning around that, or being like, look, we want to go up to Colfax or like Republic, in the far northeast part of the state, and be like, let's see what's up there. And the burgers have been a nice kind of reason to stop places along the way. It is. They've been a good excuse to be like, let's go explore. So, and then that has opened up other things too, where we start trying other restaurants in those areas too. Cause like the burgers are good, but not everything can be burger time.
Yeah.
We got to find leafy greens at some point.
Yeah. So I know you went to Europe recently. Did you take the Burger Quest over there?
Oh, brother, did we? Absolutely. So this was a fun story. So we were supposed to go to Australia at the beginning of this year. My wife is half Chinese, grew up in the States, but her dad lives in China. Most of his family during the Mao Revolution fled down to Australia. Wow. And so she had a cousin that was getting married in March. And we knew about this about a year and a half ago and figured, COVID will definitely be done by then. Australia, as of December, still hadn't opened up to anybody, including people that were from there. And so we got to a point where we were like, we can't wait to buy something or find out that we can't 2 weeks beforehand. And so we have some missionary friends that are actually from Yakima. Right after I graduated from college, here we'll tie this back in. When I graduated from college, I went to Ethiopia for 3 months, and this guy, his name's Tim Tusink, picked us up from the airport in Ethiopia. Fast forward now, he's one of my patients. And so they are now in France, he and his wife, and are going to be moving back to Yakima later this year. And so in November, December, we called them and said, we come visit you guys. We try to go places where we know people. They said, yep, we'll clear our schedule. And so we went down to South France, to the Orange region, and hung out with them. We went down to Barcelona and then up to Paris. And we had burgers in each location. I will say burgers in the States are superior to burgers in Europe. The bread in Europe is superior to the bread that we can get here is kind of what we came away with.
That makes sense.
But it was a very fun trip, and it was good to have the international version and be like, you know what, I will take a baguette with ham and cheese there any day of the week over stuff here, but like, give me something from, Ron's Taco and Burger, in town over whatever I can get over there.
Yeah. What did the kids think of that going over
They
there?
loved it. So the kids are homeschooled now. Our little boy Eli has cochlear implants, so kind of external hearing aids, or a computer that kind of attaches to the outside of his head. He's got magnets underneath his skin. At the beginning of COVID, he had just gotten his second processor put in, and so he was effectively learning how to hear. And at that point, it was really important that he be able to see people's mouth just because there's so much information that's gleaned that way. My wife is an audiologist. Miss actually does hearing test hearing aids and is one of like 2 people on the side of the mountains that actually programs cochlear implants.
Wow.
Very cool. It was very much like, it was a really cool set of circumstances. Definitely in my mind, a God thing. But with that, we decided that we had no problems with masking, but it was not going to work well for Eli to go into schools where he wasn't going to be able to see people's mouths. And so my wife had worked at Astria here in town. That hospital closed. And so she said, you know what, I'm going to homeschool the kids, and has loved it. For their curriculum last year, one of the big parts of it is they were learning about specific countries. And so they would learn about the people of the country, what what sort of food they eat. That was kind of the, geography, that sort of stuff. And so they learned about France in the month leading up to actually going to France. And so the kids were stoked that they actually, they had learned about different places. And they're like, okay, we learned about the Eiffel Tower. They're sitting there spouting off facts to me, like our 10-year-old's like, hey, Dad, you know how tall the Eiffel Tower is, or like how long it took them to build? And so they were really, really excited to get to see that sort of stuff. And we went down to Barcelona for a day. They had learned about Spain and stuff. And just, they, ever since we went and met Eli and then brought him back to the States, the older boys came with us. And so ever since then, they have they caught the travel bug at the age of 6. I was really lucky to travel a little bit growing up, but it was we went to Hawaii a couple of times, and then after high school we went over to Europe and did a tour. But at 6 and 4, the kids had traveled to China. They had been to Hawaii, kind of back to the Midwest and stuff. And then I went to France recently. And then a couple of years ago, we had some good friends that were in Norway. I'm sorry, in Finland. They were in Helsinki. And so we, again, just said, if we know people places, we'll try to go there. And so we went and visited some friends in Helsinki, Finland for a couple of weeks. And so that too, they just they always ask where can we go? Or can we go to this place? Or someday can we go to this place? So it's been really fun. They travel really well. It gets a lot more expensive buying stuff for 5 people. But
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's been very, very worth it.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a great way to learn. Not only are you learning about, the history of it in a textbook, but you get to go actually experience it.
Oh, man.
And see how it's changed.
It's huge. Well, and it's the world's so much smaller and so much more connected. And I think going places certainly has opened our eyes, just to people in general. I mean, I'm sure have found the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah.
People are so much more the same than they are, not alike. People deal with the same stuff. It was really interesting going over to France, kind of right as the COVID restrictions were being lifted. We get this sense, I think, here that we have a different outlook on code. That's kind of what I had gleaned from things. It's we're the only ones not behaving. And we got over there and it's wow, everybody over here is having the exact same thoughts of they're just tired of this, but people are still scared and a little timid. But as it has gotten a little bit easier and as people have been either vaccinated or just become more comfortable with okay, I can go outside now and everything isn't radioactive. It was really nice to go into a cheese shop and talk with a dude and be like, sell me cheese, what should I eat? And then with the kids, what we have found, and for us as well, when you go somewhere, when you try the food, you figure out the people as well. You learn about them. When I went to Ethiopia, that was the thing that I learned is you sit down and you have a meal with somebody and you learn about them, you learn about their culture, learn about the things, the things that they eat, the things that go into it, the stories that are behind it, who taught them how to do this, where they came from. And pretty soon you have this idea of this thing on your plate that you're eating with them. You all of a sudden know about how their grandma who lived out in the middle of nowhere would gather things. And that's how they learned how to do this. Yeah. And so it's been fun having the kids see some of that too. And just to learn about different foods and that not everything looks the same, but that there's really good stuff everywhere. Yeah, everybody has their version of fried dough and whatever their staple grain is. And it's fun to be able to say, yeah, we know what that is. We've tried that. Or they try it and go, okay, that's not my favorite, but I can see why people would like it. And
yeah, it's fun to experience all the different types of foods around the world. And, like you said, you get to learn the culture. I mean, food is such a big part of a place's culture.
We do it a lot every day. Everywhere does.
Yeah. That's really fun. So where's the next stop on the quest?
On the burger quest, like I said, we're going to be going up to Orcas Island this weekend, and so we'll be. It's July 4th weekend for those listening. We're going to be going up that direction. So there's a couple of places that we're going to be stopping on the way up there. And then we have a trip with some friends, hopefully to Greece next summer is one of the places. And so our middle boy is named Cyrus, so he's really excited to go to Cyprus. And everybody is starting to plot out the things that they want to eat specifically in Greece and some of the surrounding areas. So, but for the summer, we're going to go up to Stehekin again, and then just a lot of little day trips and things. Mm-hmm. It's been really nice having kids that travel well and are excited about trying places, because literally, it's like we'll drive up and be like, okay, we're going to go to Omak. Some random weekend, be like, all right, we got a hotel room or we got an Airbnb. What are we going to do? And they're like, oh, let's go to this park, or let's go here. Or they have started getting on Yelp or TripAdvisor and being like, okay, I found this store that I want to go to, or I found, a restaurant that looked cool. Mm-hmm. So it's neat. It's been fun to kind of have the world expand and to be able to do it and not just tell the kids we're going somewhere and you like it. Yeah. But they're getting to the age where they're starting to participate a little bit, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like a great way to spend some time with the family, and
it's good. They're fun.
Anything else you want to share right now?
Nothing in particular other than, I'm really glad that the world is opening back up. Yeah. It's been fun. It's been a hard couple of years for a lot of people. And just, everything is weird and different. And so I think exactly what you're encouraging people to do, go explore places. And, we in the Valley have been really lucky that not a lot of places had to close. I think we've got a really cool community that really kind of really understands the importance of local spots. And so, for any of your listeners, I assume they're probably pretty excited about that stuff, but go out and support some of your local places and find things that you didn't know that you loved.
Yeah, definitely. And I know when you're traveling to Europe or just in your backyard, the local people there, the local places there are really going to appreciate you finding their spot as well. So that's awesome. Well, Matt, thank you. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you around the world soon.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun to get to chat with you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, bye, everyone. Hey, everybody. Kyle here. If you enjoyed today's show and want more, you can always check out every episode on Spotify and Anchor, and now you can also listen on YouTube. Links are in the description below. If you want to see my travel pictures as well as travel pictures from guests on the show, you can check them out on Instagram. The page is called Our Travel Experiences Podcast. And if you want to share your own pictures on the Instagram page and or be a guest on the podcast, you can message me via that Instagram page or email me at ourtravelexperiences@outlook.com. I would love to see your pictures and hear about your travel experiences. And if that isn't enough for you, make sure to check out my new show, From Around the World Fridays. Every Friday, I'm taking 5 to 10 minutes to discuss one specific travel topic, whether that be questions I get from listeners, sharing some souvenirs that I've bought over the years, or discussing one particular city or country that I've been to, and so much more. You'll be able to listen to that via Spotify and Anchor as well, and be able to see the video version, which I'm really excited about, on YouTube. So check it out. I promise you won't be disappointed. And thanks again for listening, and I will see you around the world soon.